নমস্কার।
আচ্ছা, শেয়ার করতে পারছি না তো। হ্যাঁ, এতক্ষণ এসছে। ঠিক আছে, এতক্ষণ এসছে। ও আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ। না, তোমার ওখান থেকে করে দাও। হুম, হুম, হুম। গুড আফটারনুন, ম্যাম।
গুড আফটারনুন।
গুড আফটারনুন ম্যাম।
গুড আফটারনুন।
কেমন আছেন?
ভালো।
অনেকদিন পর দেখলাম। স্যার, গুড আফটারনুন। আপনার ওই মিউট করা আছে।
শোনা যাচ্ছে? আচ্ছা,
হ্যাঁ
ঠিক
স্যার,
আছে।
শোনা যাচ্ছে।
গুড আফটারনুন ম্যাডাম, গুড আফটারনুন।
গুড আফটারনুন।
এই
সবাই
হচ্ছে
ভালো
অবস্থা।
আছেন তো?
এই তো চলে যাচ্ছে সব। ভালো মানে কি, যতটা থাকা যায় আর কি।
হ্যাঁ, ওর মধ্যেই হয়ে যাবে স্যার, চড়ুই বেতি করে চলে যাবে।
এই তোমার বাড়িতে সবাই ভালো আছে?
হ্যাঁ
বর্ণালীকে বলছি। হ্যাঁ,
স্যার,
হ্যাঁ,
বাড়িতে বাবা বোনের একটু অসুবিধা হয়েছে, ওদের পক্স হয়েছে।
আচ্ছা। ও
আর
বাবা, এই অবস্থা এখন পক্স?
এখন
বাবা, অসময় তো।
আমি খুব মানে এখন সতর্ক অবস্থায় আছি। দেখা যাক, এই মাসের শেষেই তো আমাকে আবার অন্য একটা যজ্ঞে নামতে হবে।
জানি সেটা।
হ্যাঁ, তো সেই আর কি চলছে স্যার।
উমা ম্যাডাম, অনেকদিন দিল্লিতে থাকতে হচ্ছে আপনাকে। আপনি তো জেনারেলি খুব মোবাইল।
একদম একদম। তবে আমাদের অফিস শুরু হয়ে গেছে ফুল ফ্লেজে।
হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ, আমাকে বললেন তাই। কিছুদিন আগে নাগেশ্বর রাও সাহেবের সাথে কথা হচ্ছিল, তখন বললেন যে আপনি কি ক্যাম্পাসেই থাকেন না আপনি তো বাইরে থাকেন?
আমি বাইরে থাকি।
বাইরে থাকেন, হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ। ওই এখন তো ওখানে কি বৃষ্টি কিরকম হচ্ছে দিল্লিতে?
বৃষ্টি হচ্ছে না, ড্রাই।
হচ্ছে না, ড্রাই ড্রাই। ওই অ্যাপ্রোচ রোডটা, ইগনোর যে রাস্তাটা, ওই জায়গাটা খুব মানে হয়ে থাকে আর কি।
না, অনেকটা ইমপ্রুভ
কনজেশন
করেছে এখন।
করেছে, না করেছে, হ্যাঁ। ওই ওই রাস্তাটা পরিষ্কার হয়ে গেলে, অনেক জায়গায় চওড়া করে ফেলেছে। ওই
হ্যাঁ।
বাঁকটা নেওয়ার পরে, টার্নটা নেওয়ার পরে অনেকটা চওড়া হয়ে গেছে। এসব ড্রেন ট্রেন করছিল, লাস্ট দেখেছিলাম সেই মার্চ মাসে শেষে গেছি আর কি।
হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ।
হ্যাঁ, ওই 17 মার্চ, ওটা ওই সেদিন ছিল।
তারপরে তো লকডাউন হয়ে গেল।
তারপর লকডাউন হয়ে গেল। এই আপনাদের ন্যাকের কি খবর?
ন্যাকের তো অর্ধেক হয়ে আছে, এখন ভিজিটটা বাকি খালি।
হ্যাঁ,
ওদের
সেই
থেকে আসাটা বাকি সব হয়ে গেছে। মানে শেষ, জানি না কবে আসবে।
আমাদের তো এই স্টুডেন্ট স্যাটিসফ্যাকশন সার্ভেটা, ওই যে ওই একটা পার্টিকুলার বোধহয় 10% করেছে স্টুডেন্টদের, সেইটা অ্যাচিভ করতে এখন একটু সময় দেরি হচ্ছে, ওই স্টাডি সেন্টার গুলো বন্ধ থাকার জন্য। দেখা যাক এখন কি হয়, কিরকম সময় লাগে। অনির্বাণ খুব চেষ্টা করছে আর কি, ওই সবাইকে সেন্সিটাইজ করতে।
সেন্সিটাইজার করা যাচ্ছে না।
এটা আমাদেরও প্রবলেম হচ্ছে।
সেন্সিটাইজড হচ্ছে না আর।
বিজনেস সেন্টারদের এদেরকে পুরো ইনভলভ করে অ্যাডভাইস
ঠিক।
করে
হুম, হুম,
স্টুডেন্টদের কন্ট্রোল করা মুশকিল।
খুব মুশকিল, খুব মুশকিল।
আর সারা
আর ওরা
পশ্চিমবঙ্গ
তো
আমরা
আহ, আমাদের 3টে কি হলো? 3টে থেকে
হ্যাঁ
অনির্বাণ?
হ্যাঁ স্যার
তাহলে
শুরু করে দেবো স্যার।
হ্যাঁ হ্ঁ, দেখুন সব ঠিকঠাক
আমার
আছে তো?
ল্যাপটপটা আবার গড়বড় করলো, আমি আবার মোবাইল থেকে করছি।
আমিও মোবাইল থেকে করছি।
আমরাও
হুম।
মোবাইল থেকে। আমার মনে হয় ম্যাম খালি ল্যাপটপে আছে, যেহেতু শেয়ার করবেন বলে।
না, আমি ল্যাপটপে
আমি
বসেছিলাম কিন্তু সমস্যা হয়ে গেল। হ্যাঁ
সেম সেম, আমারও তাই, ল্যাপটপের ক্যামেরাটা কাজ করছে না।
আসলে স্যার ল্যাপটপের দোষ না, ল্যাপটপ গুলো আমাদের অনেক পুরনো হয়ে গেছে।
এইটা
এরকম
আমার
হতে
বাড়ির,
পারে।
যেটা আমি বাড়ি থেকে করছি, বাড়ির ল্যাপটপটা অত পুরনো না, কিন্তু সামহাও আর কি, হয়তো
আচ্ছা,
আমি জানি না, তাও হতে পারে।
হয়তো অ্যাডজাস্টমেন্টের সমস্যা হয়, এরকমও হতে পারে।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, মানে আমার ছেলে এইসব জিনিস জানে টানে ভালো হয়। ঠিক আছে অনির্বাণ, উই ক্যান স্টার্ট
হ্যাঁ
অ্যাকচুয়ালি। তিনটে
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
তিনটে বেজে গেছে,
হ্যাঁ
প্লিজ।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ বর্ণালী শুরু করে দিন। হ্যাঁ বর্ণালী, ইউ ক্যান স্টার্ট।
Okay. Good afternoon, all. On behalf of Netaji Subhash Open University, I, Dr. Bornali Rai Choudhury, would like to welcome you all in this webinar on open and distance learning system, online education, and open educational resources. I would like to extend my humble gratitude to our eminent speaker, Professor
আচ্ছা,
Uma
অন
Kanchelal,
হয়েছে অন হয়েছে।
Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor Shubhashankar Sarkar Sir, and Director School of Professional Studies, Professor Anirban Ghosh Sir, and my esteemed colleague Anamika Dea and other colleagues for their gracious presence. So, demand of this situation to pursue academic affair in a distance mode through online education with the help of open educational resources. It's really a requirement of the situation and the time, and this pandemic situation gearing up this entire online educational system. So we are looking forward to our distinguished speaker for their views, their thoughts on these issues. And before jumping to the main topic, I would like to request our Director, School of Professional Studies, Professor Anirban Ghosh, who is also Director of SICA, and Director in charge of School of Professional Studies, to deliver welcome address before this August gathering. Thank you, sir. Please, Anirban, sir.
Thank you, Bernali. It is my privilege to welcome Professor Uma Kanjilal, Director, Center for Online Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University, Professor Shubhashankar Sarkar, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, and participants to this webinar on ODL system, online education, and open education resources. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted all sectors, and we faced a lot of challenges in our lives. And we know the challenges give us the opportunities. This unfortunate situation has accelerated the use of digital platform in every sphere of our lives. Technology-enabled learning or digital learning is gaining importance nowadays. There is a misconception amongst us. Some of us think that online education means live classes or real-time interaction, but it is not that. Online education may be more effective when the course content is delivered through pre-recorded lectures and e-text, and also how the students are engaged in the discussion forum. Today's webinar is based on open and distance learning system, online education, and open education resources. And I may say, the more appropriately, the ODL nowadays stands for open and digital learning. And OER means the academic content which is available in public domain free of cost and released with appropriate CC license or open license. I hope our esteemed speaker, Professor Kanjilal, will discuss the open and distance learning system or open and digital learning system online education, open education resources in the light of new education policy 2020 and the recently published UGC regulations, that is UGC Open and Distance Learning Program and Online Program Regulations 2020. Thank you. Over to Bernali. You are mute. You are. Will you please unmute your mic?
I'd like to welcome Professor Uma Kanjilal ma'am, who is also head in the Faculty of Library and Information Science in Indira Gandhi National Open University. Is also heading charge of Director of Center for Online Education. She has more than 31 years of experience in the open and distance learning system at IGNOU only. She earlier also served as University Librarian, Director, School of Social Sciences, Director, Advanced Center for Informatics and Innovative Learning in the university, and Director, Inter-University Consortium of Technology-Enabled Flexible Education at IGNOU. She was also a Fulbright Scholar in University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in 1999 to 2000, where she worked on multimedia courseware development. And Professor Kanjilal is one of the national coordinator of SWAYAM and SWAYAMPRAVA of the Ministry of Human Resource Development. She is a PI of the National Virtual Library of India project, which is also a project of Ministry of Culture. And her specialization includes e-learning, multimedia, courseware development, ICT application in libraries and digital libraries. So we are enough fortunate to have our ma'am with us. And I think on this topic, she's really, I just want to hear from her, and I just want to learn from her many more things in this webinar. Over to ma'am. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Dr. Bernali. Respected Vice Chancellor, Delhi Subhash Open University, Professor Ravi Shankar Sarkar, Professor Anirban Ghosh, Director of School of Professional Studies, conveners of this webinar, Dr. Bernali Roy Chaudhary and Ms. Anamika Das, the participants of the webinars, a very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank NSOU and the conveners of this webinar for inviting me for this special webinar on a topic which is very close to my heart, in fact. So give me a moment and let me just share my screen. So my screen is visible, I hope.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So basically what the topic that I was asked to actually, it was something different that I had proposed, and finally what has been proposed is ODL system, online education and OER. I think these are very important aspects, and the present day scenario, I think this is something where we need to actually look back and decide, plan accordingly how to go about it. If you look into the challenges of higher education in India, you will find that there is lack of adequate quality educational institutions and a lot of disparities between rural and urban areas. Access to education is very limited, and in fact, the GR in the country is much lower compared to the developed countries of the world, in fact. And in fact, if you have seen the new education policy, which actually targets about 50% GER by 2035, in fact. The other important thing is that there is a high drop out rate, and this is a concern that needs to be actually addressed to seriously, in fact. We have quality constraints because absence of enforcement norms for maintaining quality, especially when we talk about ODL system. I think it's when content development, SLMs and other things, the quality we are able to maintain. But when we talk about the delivery part, I think there's something lacking and the monitoring systems are not in place. I think there is a need. And in fact, NAC is now going to do the accreditation. The process has started, which was missing. I think that will actually ensure some level of quality assurance in future, perhaps. Adequate infrastructure not available. And if we talk about GR 50% growth, I think brick and mortar will not work, and we have to think in terms of ODL system and specifically online education system. And I think that's where a lot of technological infrastructure needs to be built in. I think the open universities and the other distance learning institutions, they need to work towards that. That is another important thing that needs focus on. Another important point is that there is a high cost of education, which is an impediment, and many learners are not able to access education. And especially when we talk about skill-based education or professional education, which is practical oriented, I think there is a lack, and we need to actually address that. And another important thing is lack of quality teachers across the country. Metro cities, we may have highly qualified professionals, but if we go to the rural India, there you may not have, and access to quality education is most important, and where in that case, the quality of teacher is important. So all these challenges that are there in higher education actually brings in the importance of ODL in India. And this is required for inclusive growth, where we can talk about equity, access, and quality education, support literacy drive. Skill training to a great extent has to be actually addressed through ODL system itself. Otherwise, the number that we talk about, we cannot address with the traditional systems of education. And also, ODL system is seen as a platform which can actually take forward, develop the life skills of the people, enabling lifelong learning. But the ODL system itself also brings in some challenges. Implementation is, a big challenge, in fact, because in the most of the cases, we have seen that we may come up with high quality offering of programs and other things, but the unreached remain the unreached, in fact. And this is a major challenge, and which is actually due to perhaps geographical context, remoteness, and other socioeconomic factors. I think therein the traditional ODL system could not cater to effectively, where I think online education and technology-based digital education can make a mark. I think that's what we need to look into. If we look into the milestones in the ODL system in the country, we see that it's not very old. In fact, 1962, we had the correspondence education started in Delhi University, which was mainly print-based, and through mail delivery was done. 1982 saw the first open university coming up in the country, that was Andhra Pradesh Open University, which is now known as B.R. Ambedkar Open University in Hyderabad. And this was the first starting point of open universities in the country, where actually exclusively university focusing to distance education was brought in. Then we have in 1985, a national level university, Indira Gandhi National Open University was established by Act of Parliament to cater to the learners, and this across the country without any jurisdiction barrier, and also to the international students also. 1992, the first time I think the regulator for distance education came in with the establishment of Distance Education Council, where actually IGNOU was playing a dual role, in fact, also working as a regulator for distance education. But then there was a shift, in fact, in 2012, this regulatory role of the IGNOU was shifted from IGNOU to UGC, and wherein, in fact, this whole statute that was there for the regulation as a part of IGNOU's Act, it was repealed, in fact, in 2013. In 1917, actually, the first regulations, concrete regulations, was brought in by the Distance Education Bureau of UGC. And this actually clearly gave the guidelines how to go about offering ODL programs. And and every year, actually, one needs to renew the programs. 2018 saw the first time policy or a regulation coming in for online education. Number of institutions, even in IGNOU, we were running online programs, but we had to stop them in 2014 because no policy was in place at the national level, and we were asked to stop all the online programs that were there. So from after this 2018, the online regulations that came in fact, this was the first time that called for expression expression of interest for offering online program in 2019, somewhere in January 2019. And the whole process of identifying institutions to offer online program came in. IGNOU was lucky in the sense that we were the first institution at a state level, government institution, which got the permission to run 3 online programs, which actually started from January 2020. Then finally, we have recently this, it was found that a lot of overlapping was there in the ODL regulation as well as in the online regulation. And there was a need felt to have a merged regulation which takes care of both ODL as well as the online regulations. And in fact, so 2020 recently, in fact, we have this Gazette notification about the new regulations, and already the process has started where actually institutions have been asked to apply for offering ODL programs and the online programs. So they have called for expression of interest. Actually, if you look into the regulations, the present one that has come up in 2020, a lot of emphasis on online education has been brought in, and the quality checks and other parameters have been put in place. Now, talking about the development of distance learning world over, in fact, Taylor talks about 5 generations of open and distance learning. In fact, first generation, as I mentioned, that in India itself, we saw the correspondence education, which was mainly based on print technology. Second generation, somewhere with the starting of the open universities, we had the multimedia model based on print, audio, video technologies. To some extent, radio and television also was brought in. Then we had the third generation where tele-learning, that was somewhere at the starting of 1995 onwards, tele-education was brought in. And this was based on application of telecommunication technologies and synchronous communication, two-way interaction with the learners, that was brought in fact. Fourth generation, with the advent of internet and widespread use of internet and web technologies, in fact, we saw the use of a flexible learning model based on online delivery of programs. In fact, if not fully online, at least some kind of a blended mode was brought in. And in the fifth generation, actually the present one that we are in, it's an intelligent, flexible learning model. And in fact, nowadays we are talking about AI, big data in education, and many other things. But the crux of the thing is that what we now talk about is more about interactivity and using the technology to the fullest. That is the most important thing that has been brought in. So we see a paradigm shift in open and distance learning. 1982 with the establishment of the first open university in the country, and till 1995, we were actually busy in building the foundation for ODL system in the country. Then in 95 onwards, in fact, the technology was brought in, and a lot of collaborative, interactive media was brought in to the fore. 2007 onwards, we saw increasing reach and access to unserved segments because internet and the mobile technologies could reach out to the remotest corners, and a blended mode of learning was brought in. But I think 2020, post-COVID, the situation saw a major disruption in education, which in fact we were not at all prepared. I mean, it was a situation where actually, I mean, the whole system was in a lurch and we did not know how to go about it when immediately this lockdown was announced. But I think faculty and learners, they were innovative, and they found out ways and means actually to, I mean, keep going the process of teaching learning. That's the most important thing. And in fact, if we see that learners try to create their own learning paths, finding whatever resources across platforms available, using them, technology they were using. Faculty were innovative with a lot of new pedagogy brought in. In fact, the role also became more of a facilitator, community manager, using a lot of social media. I think this disruption that brought about, I think, a big change. And in fact, it's going to be something where we have to focus now in future, perhaps. So basically, if we look into COVID-19 pandemic, the disruption in higher education, it was actually transformed the centuries old chalk and talk teaching in the traditional institutions to technology driven model. Everyone started, even the school level people started talking about online education, online classes. So, I mean, people were not prepared, but I mean, they were thrown into this. So this is what happened in all of a sudden. This actually called for a multi-pronged strategy to manage the crisis and build a robust education system in the country, I think. If you look into the new education policy, it talks actually major emphasis on the use of ICT. Every angle, they're talking about ICT, how best to utilize and how best to reach out to the learners and fulfill the requirements of the GR that we talk about. So we had online classes happening, online counseling, ODLs and systems were doing, but there were challenges. In fact, people were not prepared. And there was I mean, everyone talked about online courses, classes. We looked for platforms that are available, free platforms, whether you talk about Google or many other people, Microsoft and all, came forward, made available platforms which were free. In fact, Google, whatever we had till September 30th, now it's not free. You have to pay now. So we have to relook, rework, and see how best we can carry forward whatever we have learned during the last 5-6 months. In fact, we were not ready. Adoption of online learning mode without any preparation is a real challenge. Teachers and students were struggling with a lot of other issues like internet connectivity, unpredictable power cuts, and all other issues are there. So, I mean, disruptions in the process was a common thing. But I think I mean, as we went around, we were actually improving our systems and putting them in place, in fact, and we were getting innovative to do that. Teacher and so, and another important thing is teachers were under tremendous stress. They have been taught in a manner to the class transactions, but they were now actually forced to look into the structural issues and pedagogy and deliverables that are to be put in. So even the faculty, they were not prepared and they needed to reinvent themselves to be prepared for that. But what we saw that the search actually world over, it was found the registration for online courses, especially this is what I'm showing is on the, MOOCs scenario that happened. And most of the MOOCs provider, they made their courses available free, in fact. So for some time, so that people could register free when they were at home, go ahead. So these were the major thing, and you will see the surge from 2019 to 2020, the big jump that happened and the number of registrations that were happening. And you see that the web traffic also increased many-fold. So this was something important. Coursera, which is a very popular platform, in fact, saw over 10 million courses enrolled within just 30 days in March and April, in fact. And edX, which was not even in the scene of my top 1,000 websites where what a search, and similarly our SWAYAM and all, in fact, in the thing also happened. And if you look into, I mean, these are some of the snapshots I have taken from the Twitter page of our education ministers. This thing, the thrust that was there, you will see it was mentioning about online programs. It was talking about open educational resources, availability of such resources that the government is providing, and urging the institutions to actually adopt them, adapt them as per their teaching learning requirements, in fact. So these are some of the major initiatives under the Ministry of Education. If you go through, they have actually collated during this period, in fact, and made it available so that people can, I mean, in one go. And they were circulating this too also to all the institutions so that they could actually compile for the learners, I mean, the links and other things. And the resources that are available. And most of this are, if you see, are the open educational resource repositories that are mentioned. During the pandemic, you can see actually this was during, I mean, the first 2 months, what happened? A huge thrust happened, in fact, during the lockdown. And even if you can see that the peak, this is for the National Digital Library of India and other also, even our eGyan course got a thrust. So, I mean, millions of people were visiting. In fact, even we were not ready with our infrastructure. We had to rework and make it available to larger clientele group. So what has taught us during this pandemic is, I think, so post-pandemic, the new normal is going to be a lot of emphasis on open educational resource repositories, which need to be made available through web as well as mobile applications. Emphasis on massive open online courses. And in fact, we have SWAYAM India MOOCs that are there. I think a lot of trust was given for the institutions to come forward and offer courses on SWAYAM. Then the DTH channels actually were, the 32 channels were running earlier also. It started somewhere in 2016, but it was actually, these channels were redesignated. In fact, what has happened is earlier, most of the channels were distributed to higher education, but then there was a decision that straight away 12 channels were taken away for the school sector, and right from class 1 to class 12, these channels were distributed. So every class having a channel exclusively that, and which actually is taken care by NCERT. IGNOU, for instance, we also have, I mean, 4 channels now. I'll talk about that, in fact, and an exclusive channel for the state open universities, where all can work together. And also the emphasis on online education, I think we need to now relook. This is going to be the new normal, and I think we need to prepare ourselves for that. So talking about the starting point is OER, a lot of resources are available. And in fact, when we talk about OER, it's basically educational resources that incorporate a license that facilitates reuse and adaptation without first requesting permission from the copyright holder. So this term, in fact, was coined in 2002 in UNESCO Forum. And it came actually after seeing the impact of the MIT courseware that was there. And people started, actually, there was a thrust on people, this whole bandwagon of developing OER repositories started there. So when we talk about OER repositories, what contents go into it? It will be open courseware and content, open software tools, open material, e-learning, capacity building tools. Then repository of learning objects, free educational courses, visiting lectures, or the webinars that we are doing nowadays, that also can be part and parcel of your OER repository. Imported coursewares, inter-institutional programs, externally developed sponsored programs, all actually can go into it. It's not necessary that whatever you develop as your SLM is only part and parcel of OER. You can actually bring in anything. In fact, the OER culture, when it started with MIT, it was more of a voluntary thing where faculty, they were sharing their own resources. But gradually it became more institutionalized, and at institutional level, policies were framed and contents in an organized manner they were used. Uh, Professor Onivan mentioned about the utility of OER. In fact, we talk about 5 hours of OER: retain, reuse, revise, remix, redistribute. I think a lot of content is available. We need to look for them and how best we can reuse and repurpose them and to suit our requirement. That's what we need to work towards. I think we need to avoid the duplication that is happening, and this could be a cost-cutting solution. In fact, in the present ODL and online regulation that has come 2020, it clearly mentions that institutions can use 40% of the material, OER material, to develop their own courses. The other 60% you have to develop, but the 40% you can straight away take whatever is available. You need not build 100% of the content for offering any ODL program. So this is something that is a major task that has come in. I will not go into the details, but these are some of the popular OER initiatives worldwide. I will share the slides. So perhaps, and if you look into and worldwide, the major initiatives, they are started with the MIT course where we have UK University's Open Learn initiative, very popular. China Open Resource for Education, that is there. India, National Digital Library of India, not basically a OER repository, but more of a discovery service if you're looking for OER. That's what you need to. In fact, the OER initiatives in India started long back with the ECLAV project that was started by IIT Bombay. And then we had E-Grade from IIIT Kerala, then NPTEL program with all IITs getting together, developing. And this happened actually, there was a search from, 2000 onwards, this started developing in a big way, in fact. We have the eGyan course where we all digitized, and this started somewhere in 2005-6, where we digitized our content and made it available, not as OER, of course, but as it's a copyrighted material. But we brought in made that available under the open access philosophy. Apart from that, Ministry of Education's Sakshat portal, in fact, it was supposed to be a one-stop portal, but many other developments happened. And again, they're coordinating this activity to put in all the content that are there available as open educational resources, whatever has been done, developed under the Ministry of Education, under the NMEICT project, putting them all together in one place. The major, if you look into, a lot of developments happen under NMEICT. We had UG level content of 87 disciplines available that was developed by CEC, PG level by UGC, known as EPG Pathshala, spoken tutorials by IIT Bombay, virtual labs by IIT Delhi, many more other such specialized discipline-based things. The best part was whatever content was developed were all made available as OER under CC by SA license. So these are the initiatives. I'll just run through that. You can have a look into it later on. This is spoken tutorial where actually, thousands of small 10 minutes tutorials are available. This virtual lab by IIT Delhi in collaboration with other IITs, they have developed somewhere around 200 thing there. This is eGyan Kosh, our IGNOU's there. Another important thing, if we talk about OERC, developing a repository is good. But then what happens if we want to actually, searching is a major challenge. And UNESCO Paris OER Declaration 2012 talks about facilitating finding, retrieving, resharing of OER. So it talks about encouraging development of user-friendly tools that can actually search and retrieve OER that are specific and relevant to particular needs. So I think a lot of emphasis on indexing and searching picking there. And if we look into, I think, to a great extent, that National Digital Library of India has been able to achieve that with millions of your content that are available as OER. You can just search through them. It's basically a discovery site, and you can search through the content that are all the OERs that are there, subject wise or level wise, whatever you talk about. These are some of the search engines under OER that are available. One can go through. Creative Commons plays a major role. In fact, even Professor Animan mentioned about it, the license policies that are there. In fact, we also have actually categorized under different types of, I mean, you can search through images, search through web, search through video, audio, whatever, YouTube channels. A fantastic platform to search for OERs, in fact. And it talks about actually not just searching, asks for donating and actually participating in sharing your content. This is something important. Now, if as a faculty, if you have developed some open education resources, where do you host them? One is you host it on your uh, own own institutional repository. But the other option is there are platforms available, freely available, but because at times your repository, I mean, you need proper infrastructure, storage, and other things in place, then only you can offer. But these are some freely available platforms where you can share your content and index them. Maybe the indexing part can be done on your repository through some search engine one can search through. So the metadata can rest in your repository and linking your content that's available. So you don't have to invest too much on a server or a streaming service or anything like that. You put all your videos on YouTube, link it to the repository, searching can be done through it. So these are the platforms what you can actually work on to share and publish your own content. OER as it came was found that fine, OER is like a library, but it's not enough. So the whole idea of massive open online courses arose in response to actually make some kind of an impact in socioeconomic terms, reduce the cost of higher education, and for the to develop human development and skill development purposes, contents to be developed. So basically the idea is to move, the OER was more of a resource, emphasis in MOOCs is more towards the learning. Institution to learner, from media to engagement, and just adoption of content to discovery of content on a platform. So the basic change that brought about with the massive open online courses was this. If you look into, in fact, the whole culture of developing massive open online courses started basically somewhere in around 2008, but major emphasis was in 2012. And if you see the numbers, it's just mind-boggling. And if you look actually what is the development in Class Central, actually every year they come up with the statistics. I mean, this as on date has changed because this was the till December 2019, the data that 900 plus institutions involved in the process of developing content, 110 million students on board with 13.5 thousand courses, and many of them offering micro credentials, even 50 institutions offering degrees based on MOOCs itself. So this is really mind-boggling, and the way that it's developing. And in fact, the COVID-19 also emphasized the requirement of massive online courses. If you go simply by the registration count, Coursera had somewhere around 37 million counts, but that rose, I showed you earlier also 67 or something like that. So this is the big number. Even SWAYAM joined in the group with around 12.3 million students enrolled till 2019. But MOOCs is also changing. Earlier, MOOCs, as the term suggests, massive open online courses. But the big question is how much is open? That's a thing that needs to be looked into. So even the massiveness also reduced. Nowhere they were massive. In fact, we started talking about specialized SPOCs or small courses that are there. Uh, Emphasis, it was a free learning too. Actually, college credit, credentials, degrees came into being. A lot of regional providers with different languages, they came into being, and decreasing number of standalone courses, rather it's combined degree or some certificate based courses. So this came in, and most of them became actually paid only courses. If you now go to Coursera or edX, earlier the most of the things which were very popular were available free, but most of them are now paid. The best ones are all paid courses. And this is the monetization that happened from free to we are actually moving to, I mean, paid content, which matters to a certificate for a course or a micro credential or a credit transfer or an online degree or corporate training. So this is how things are going. Talking about micro credentials, I think people started talking about micro masters, short courses, combining courses together actually and offering. So we have something called even nano degree or specialization based courses. And these are the players actually who have been putting in this micro credentials that are there. So, in fact, Dhaval Shah, who runs that course, class center, talks about the second wave of MOOC. This is where actually you combine. It's a very flexible mode. You combine some courses that are available as MOOCs and go in for a certification or a degree in future. I mean, the whole concept of micro credentials towards earning a degree that was brought in, and that's actually, in fact, if we look into now, even in India with the SWAYAM, the offering of online programs to a big way also talk about is the same thing, that you earn your certificates from short-term courses and then combine them and go for a certificate or a diploma or a degree. So Swayam, I'll just quickly mention about it. Being India MOOC, this is actually curriculum from ninth standards in the school to actually PG level courses that are made available. There are 9 national coordinators. I'm not going into the details. These are the coordinators that are available. This was the enrollment status. The latest one we have not seen in. The major change in this is that we talk about offering courses as 4-quadrant approach. In fact, where we have high quality video, that is the first quadrant, supported by e-content, whereas in case of ODL, we have first quadrant as the SLN. And then that is supported by supplementary material like videos and audio lectures. Whereas in SWAYAM, it is emphasis on the videos, and a 4 credit of video, 4 credit of a course will need to have 20 hours of video. And these, if you look into the regulations that are there, clear cut, it also mentions how you will be offering your online programs or online courses. So you need to look into the guidelines that are there for SWAYAM as well as for the new regulation that has come in. And this is then supported with the third quadrant is the assignment assessment that you put in. And the fourth one is the discussion forum. Apart from that, we have another actually activity started in a big way, where we have been asking for each course transcripts. The purpose is that these courses are now getting translated into 8 languages. For IGNOU courses, already 11 courses have been actually in the process and they have been translated. So at the moment, all the videos will be available with translated transcripts. In fact, and later on we may go in even for dubbing in future. Finally, in this case, when we talk about SWAYAM courses, there is a term and examination which is conducted by NTA. And in fact, this is the platform that we have. The major important thing is that the certification through SWAYAM, where actually have proctored examination is happening for the final exam. A certificate is issued by the national coordinator in this format. And in fact, Gazette notification was brought in that talked about 20% of credit transfer. Here's what something is more institutionalized and specified, which is not in case of other MOOCs platforms that are there. So if it's coming from the government saying that anyone earning a certificate from any MOOCs course can ask for credit transfer, and this process has already started. And in fact, you will be happy to know that it's not just 20%. Now there is a talk about making it 20 to 40%. So people can actually, students can go in for courses. So what does it mean to a particular institution? So if you want to run a program where you may not have your specialized teachers in that, you can ask your learners to pick up some courses from the SWAYAM and provide them credit transfer. This is how you can go about. So these are, I mean, in fact, in a big way, government is announcing this, that the courses that are available on SWAYAM are available for credit mobility. So, and in fact, in IGNOU courses also, many of the institutions are approaching us, making it part and parcel of their curriculum. I think that's, and this is two-way process. One is hosting a course, the other is offering the course to other institutions for credit transfer. The pandemic also brought in a lot of change. In fact, in IGNOU, what we had done, in fact, a lot of technology interventions were brought in. In fact, from April 1st onwards, you won't believe it. I mean, if you see the numbers, it's just mind-boggling. In fact, regularly every day we run sessions on Facebook. Simple, you don't have to spend any money on that. And you have sessions that are most effective, and the numbers, if you see the number of users and shares and the likes that are happening, very effective way of reaching out. So live sessions every day that's being conducted. Another technology that we have used, in fact, during this last 5-6 months, this is a podcasting. I think the other institutions also may look into a very cost-effective way of doing it. In fact, and this became a podcast service became very popular. In fact, where short audio lectures, and the platform is known as Freedom to Learn. In fact, so very, for the management courses we have started, and there is a now demand, in fact, increasing. And they see from June 22 onwards, you can see the page views that have been more than 1 lakh. And it's getting popular day by day with the live lectures that are coming. Another cost-effective means of reaching out we have experimented. This is known as VYAS, that is Web-Enabled Academic Support System. In fact, many low enrollment courses, what was done, the Google Suite was used to develop courses so that in one platform, you have repositories, you have your audio videos available somewhere in YouTube or some material somewhere, combine them together in one single click, in one page. In fact, you make them available to the learners. So this is a very effective way of reaching out to the learners. And in one go, they get access to, this is done program wise. For each program, they have developed a page, academic support, where the faculty, they are working and developing this, and fantastic response we are getting from the learners. This basically we did. And in fact, in many of the cases, we have withdrawn the student support services in the study centers where the enrollment is low. So we don't go in for counseling. This is the platform that is being effectively used to reach out to our learners. Apart from that, in fact, during this pandemic, we saw that even faculty were very innovative. They used different platforms, in fact, reaching out. Web conferencing tools were available, WebEx, talk about Zoom, you talk about Google Meet. All these were available, in fact, for freely available. And faculty, they were reaching out, organizing counseling sessions themselves and reaching out to the learners. So no cost involved to the institutions as such, in fact. Another important thing is the counseling. You can see the numbers if there are. We have 56 regional centers across the country, and they organize the counseling sessions. In April to June, it was 31,136 counseling sessions. All the programs we have done, and everything is web-based. So no cost involved again here, in fact. Just whatever cost involved is just paying to the counselors, that's all. So, I mean, these are the effective means of there. And now, in fact, a committee has been constituted in IGNOU to work out how we can actually take this forward, organize this more in a more, provide this in a more organized manner so that we avoid the duplication that is happening. I'll now talk about the online programs that IGNOU is offering. We started in January with 3 online programs, and for the July 2020, we are now offering 15 online programs. Systematically, we developed, in fact, and the thing is, if you look into the regulation, it talks about you have to use the SWAYAM platform. If you want to use your own LMS to develop your online program, offer your online program, then I think yeah. Hello. Okay.
Carry on, ma'am.
Yeah. So this, if you look into the regulation, it clearly talks, even the 2018 also it talked about, and present one also says that if you offer your programs, it will be preferable you use the SWAYAM platform to offer your online programs. And we have actually now on SWAYAM a second vertical, which is exclusively for running your online programs. It's like an LMS, which doesn't come in the front end and not merged with all the courses that are offered as free courses on SWAYAM. But on the back end, the second vertical that platform offers for the institutions to run online program. But the problem is that if you're running in that, you have to pay actually 15% of the fee to run that on the SWAYAM. But if you go in for your own platform, then parameters, if you have seen that clear-cut parameters have been given for quality assurance, you need to check through that. If your LMS supports that, you are free enough to go about. But then also there will be a technical team which will be evaluating your platforms and then giving permission. So I think to start with, it is preferable to go in with SWAYAM and gradually develop and shift to your own platform. But the thing is, SWAYAM has a limitation. We, in fact, from IGNOU side, we were offering SWAYAM courses as free open courses, and we did not use the second, second vertical that was there. But this had a limitation, only content in FUCODENT, it's available. But if you talk about the admissions, examination to some extent taken care by NTA, but then the complete life cycle of the learners is not catered by the SWAYAM platform. So, and if you talk about the counseling sessions, online sessions that are required, that's not available on SWAYAM. So what we did actually, we used multiple platforms to offer online programs. We have a IGNOU online portal where we offer our courses. This is the landing page. From there, they go to the online admission. Then once the admission is done, then they're transferred to the SWAYAM courses where the course transactions happen. But apart from that regular counseling, we are using Microsoft Teams for this purpose. So this is how we have mixed and matched different platforms together to offer the courses. So this is how we have the SWAYAM courses available. Apart from that, there are some courses which needed, especially in our certificate in information technology, they needed a project component. For that, we are using Moodle to offer that course, in fact, so which could not actually match with the SWAYAM requirement. Apart from that, we are going to, in fact, in a big way, use the SWAYAM Prabha channel also to reach out to the learners for our online programs. It's not just the online programs, even for the ODL programs. As I mentioned recently, channels have been reorganized, and with IGNOU, we have 4 channels. Channel 17, we have specially designated to social sciences and humanities. Channel 18 for basic and applied sciences, 19 for professional and vocational education. Channel 20 we have for SOUs and teacher education, in fact. And in fact, we are requesting all state open universities to come on board, and they can offer their courses. The best part of SWAYAM Prabha is that This is last mile connectivity that he can bring in through television channels. In fact, because many at the remote areas, you may not have access to internet bandwidth and all. So this is another mode of reaching out to the learners. So this is how best we can use it. This is the Microsoft team which we used for our online counseling of our students. Apart from that, a lot of media, social media tools are available. We need to look into that. And I think if we look into, there is a major shift from the traditional ODL system to the present system that we are moving towards. I think even the teacher's role is to a great extent changing. We are becoming network teachers with a lot of platforms that are there. You reach out to your learners, and most of them are available free of cost, in fact. So how best you can, go ahead, especially if you are going to offer online programs. I think this is how we need to, as such, we ourselves need to change. So if you look into the Incheon Declaration, it clearly talks about framework for action for implementation of sustainable development goal. In fact, the target 3.43, it says that a well-established, properly regulated tertiary education system supported by technology, open educational resources, and distance education modalities can increase access, equity, quality, and relevance, and narrow the gap between what is taught at tertiary education institution and what economic and society's demand. I think reaching out the learners, this is so OERs, online education, and ODL, they are going to play they have to work hand in hand and play a major role, in fact. So there is a major shift that is happening. I think with the ODL system that we were catering to with the multimedia media mode, now we have to shift to four-quadrant approach at content. Earlier, it focused mainly on the print material with the self-learning material, but I think we need to now go in for a four-quadrant approach. And this should not be the complete course as such, but even at this four-quadrant should go into the unit level provision of the course material. So you need to have self-instructional material, combine it with, face-to-face learning. You can actually, in fact, move that face-to-face counseling into web counseling, whatever you want. Gyan Darshan or other Swayamprabha TV channels that are there, you can use that. Webcasting on web radio, web TV, that can be utilized. Podcasting and other tools are available. Interaction through Cradle Conference, web conferencing can brought in practical projects, everything. I think we need to think, change the way even we now organize our learning content. This is the crux of the matter. In fact, more emphasis is required when on delivery of the content. In fact, in IGNOU, what we have done is we are emphasizing on use of digital content, and 15% fee concession is given to the students who opt for digital content. You see what happened during this pandemic. Everything was closed. Content could not be dispatched to our learners. So 100% dependence came on our eGyan coach and our e-content mobile app that is there. I think this is what has opened up our minds, and students are also getting used to it. You won't believe our this thing during this whole period. In fact, at the moment for e-content, our e-content app, actually more than 6 lakh installation already happened, in fact. So, and I've shared also the statistics that with the eGyan push usage. Now, another important shift that is required is moving from three-tier architecture to centralized structure. This already we started doing this during this pandemic. We have been having those headquarters, regional centers, and study centers. I think we need to now rethink about a centralized processes where actually online admissions and all, or counseling, everything can happen from the headquarters. regional centers can be more of monitoring and supporting the learners, and we can directly reach out to the learners to the last mile. In fact, in IGNOU, we major activity that we did, and during this examination is going on from 17th of September. Online question paper delivery system we started ourselves. Initially, when we started in July 2019, June 2019 examination, it was just for the practical courses. To December 2019, it was for just some of the certificate and diploma courses and the practical courses. And this time already exam started, and 80% of our question paper delivery is happening online platform that has been developed at IGNOU itself. And I mean, it's a fantastic way of, cutting cost and most effective way of actually conducting the question paper. And you can actually, this question paper leak and other things, all issues that are there, can resort to. I think the paradigm shift is there that we need to look into. So as a concluding remark, I would like to say that gradually it's time for us to embrace online education to target this 50% GR by 2035. Pandemic has taught us a lot and almost prepared us for the new normal that we are talking about. Digital education, online education, I think we are ready for that, and we need to actually go ahead with that. And it should not stop once the lockdown is over, or we are and the start the regular process. I think we need to rethink and revisit our requirements and rework our strategies to reach out our learners. So online delivery should not be just emulation, but very important. What we do in the name of online delivery, we just emulate the present practices. No, you have to change. I mean, whole mindset needs to change. Our emphasis should be more a learner-centric approach, what the learners want and how we reach out. That is very important that we need to look into. A lot of emphasis is required on engaging interactive content based on sound instructional design principles. We have, for developing our self-learning material, we have a process in place. But when we talk about online delivery, I think instructional design principles play a very important role. And I think we need to actually focus on developing content which provides experiential learning, learning by doing, and all such strategies that are there. So instead of just generalizing content, it's also important that we perhaps think of, because online education gives you an opportunity of personalization and customization based on learners' requirement. And that's the trend. In fact, people talk about learner analytics, learning analytics, big data in education. I think we need to repurpose our content in a manner so that we are able to provide personalized and customized learning, in fact. So what we need to do is innovative methods to adopt for the assessment also. I mean, whether we talk about the continuous assessment or the term and examination, I think we need to reinvent, have combining activities, discussion forums, e-portfolios, and evidence-based assessment put in place. For term and examination, it need not be just 3 hours examination. Go in for online examination, proctored examination, go in for term papers, viva voce of that, projects, subjective, objective. I mean, you need to combine, you need to be innovative. So to conclude, in fact, before ending, I think Marshall McLuhan says that any new technology environment eventually creates totally new human environment. In fact, it was not the new technology, it is the COVID-19 that has made us rethink, and it already has created a new environment for us. I think that's what we need to continue with. And I think we need to actually see how best we can offer to our ODL learners online education with OER content that we develop. Thank you.
Bernali. Are you there? Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful speech. And
Yeah.
Bernal, please take
Yeah.
over.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your eloquent speech. And I think we have learned a lot from your presentation. And now I would like to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Subhash Shankar Sarkar, sir, to deliver presidential speech for this webinar. Sir, please.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. The present webinar on ODL system, online education, and OER, organized by the Department of Library and Information Science under the aegis of School of Professional Studies, NSU, is itself a broad canvas, very big canvas encompassing the huge gamut of ODL, online and OER aspects of ODL, aspects of online, and ODL, aspects of OER. So in such a huge canvas, today we are proud to have amongst us Professor Uma Kanjilal, the Director, Center for Online Education, IGNOU. Professor Kanjilal is widely known in the national scenario in her own fields of specialization. She has been a proponent, rather a crusader, I should say, of MOOCs movement, in particular, and ICT-mediated open learning in India in general. We are grateful to Professor Kanjilal for finding some time out of her very hectic schedule at IGNOU and beyond, and delivering such an illuminating and excellent talk. We have I've seen that nearly 45 such sort of participants. I extend my sincere thanks to all of them. My congratulations to Professor Anirban Ghosh, Director, School of Professional Studies, and also Director SICA of Netaji Subhash Open University, to Dr. Borali Rai Chaudhuri and Ms. Anamika Das, Assistant Professors in the Department of Library and Information Sciences of our university. This webinar has actually special significance, as has been pointed out by Professor Kanjilal. This significance is on four different counts. Number one is the advent of National Education Policy 2020. This is most important. Then in this scenario, we have also the UGC ODL programs and online programs regulation 2020, which has come out very recently. And thirdly, the introduction of NAAC assessment and accreditation process of ODL higher educational institutions for the first time in the history since 1982, when Dr. Brau, as we fondly tell it, the first open university in the country came into being. So these are the three. Then the fourth one, as already pointed out by all, last but not least, the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been an unprecedented leveler. Among everything malicious, it has one silver lining. This has demonstrated to the entire human race in its current 6-month-long spate that how ICT intervention can become the sole rescuer of teaching learning process, starting from the primary to secondary school, to higher secondary, to undergraduate, to graduate and research level. In this background, to my little understanding, the open universities has a phenomenal role to play. We have no doubt that open universities have brought the legitimate credence to the ODL mode of education. Now we see across India, the enrollment number in OUs are increasing each year. And the union government is more concerned with OUs for their role in increasing the GR of our country. OUs are relatively small establishment now in comparison to their conventional counterparts. And yet they are attracting huge expectation of our learners. As properly pointed out, by Professor V.S. Prasad and Professor Venkaiah in one of their recent publications. I quote, "Enlightened leadership with pragmatic vision, competent and motivated staff, adequate technology infrastructure, and flexible professional management are the four pillars of the open university system. In a systemic view, weakness is one in any of these pillars affects the system as a whole. Different levels of deficit," I unquote. Now, different levels of deficit in these pillars will lead to existential threats to the system for bringing sustenance and fulfilling the expectations of our students. Every OU should prepare its own reform agenda reflecting its context. Reimagination of OU needs understanding of the past as well as current technologies with a passion for its foundational values and vision for the future. We all subscribe to their views and are committed to follow such path in days to come. Let this be our oath today. Thanks to all of you once again, and namaskar. Over to
Thank
Bernal.
you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your constant support and for your wonderful speech. Now, I would like to request my esteemed colleague, Anamika Dash, to convey a vote of thanks of this webinar. Over to Anamika Di.
Thank you, Varnali. Yes, Anirbandha, you want to tell something?
Before going to formal vote of thanks, I would like to add something. Madam will be happy to note that during the pandemic and lockdown, we extended our service to our students through our LMS, OER repository, AV lectures, and we conducted so many webinars based on the syllabus. And also the online classes are going on still now. And we also provided external links of MHRD. Yeah, and we have received
online examination.
Only in this term. We introduced the online examination in this year. These are the new initiatives in the new normal from our side, and I think our students are also happy to get the ESLM through their website, through our website, because you have already mentioned that there is a problem of transportation of study material to the study centers, and we also faced the similar problem here also. So we upload entire course content in the PDF form in our LMS and website, and students access these SLMs, and they are happy with these. Just to note. Thank you. Thank you. Anamika.
Thank you, Anirbandha. Okay. Good afternoon, invited dignitaries, guests on the dais and off the dais, and the esteemed participants present here in this webinar on ODL system, online education and OER. I feel honored to offer formal vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee. We all are passing through an unprecedented, difficult pandemic situation, a long time for more than 6 months. We are maintaining physical distance everywhere in the society. In such a state, webinars organized in various sectors, as Anirbandha mentioned, reduce the social distance. We are distant physically, but socially, the teacher-student distance, social distance, the peer-to-peer social distance are much more reduced. And thus, it keeps our spread to knowledge and information uphill. However, organizing such events in such a pandemic situation involves supports and dedication from different individuals and departments. At the outset of this Thanksgiving protocol, I express my heartfelt gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Shubho Shankar Sarkar, who is always an inspiring idol for us in our each initiative and academic activity. Without his constant inspiration and support, it could never be possible to organize such events. Thank you, sir. I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our thanks to our registrar, Mr. Mohan Kumar Chattopadhyay, and the finance officer, Shachindra Chandrakar, for their support. I am thankful to Professor Uma Kanjila, professor and head in the Faculty of Library and Information Science in the Indira Gandhi National Open University, and the director in charge of the Center of Online Education, IGNOU, for her being with us in spite of her busy and hectic schedule. Madam, you have enlightened us with your profound knowledge and a long experience of more than 31 years of working with open and distance learning system, and also with your experience in online education and open educational resources. Thank you, madam, for your informative and inspiring speech. I am thankful to concerned ICT support service provider of our university and all the members therein. Without their constant support, this program could not be successfully organized. I am thankful to all my colleagues, including all the teaching and non-teaching members of our NSU family, for their constant support and appreciation. And above all, it is my heartfelt gratitude to all the participants for being an important part of this program. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And all the participants will get the participation certificate within 7 to 10 days. It will be issued on the basis of the feedback form. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take a leave. Thanks. Thanks again.
Okay. See you again, ma'am. লিভ করে দাও সায়ন লিভ করে দাও
হ্যাঁ স্যার ঠিক আছে থ্যাংক ইউ
এন্ড মিটিং এন্ড